Think you know all 7 continents? Spoiler, there's an 8th, and 94% of it is underwater. Scientists just redrew Earth's map. Meet Zealandia, the missing puzzle piece they forgot to teach you in geography class. For centuries, the maps hanging in classrooms and living rooms everywhere left out a colossal puzzle piece of Earth's crust. Today, thanks to a breakthrough that rewrites geology textbooks, scientists have finally mapped every mountain ridge, valley, and volcanic scar of that submerged world. Welcome to Zealandia, Earth's long-lost 8th continent, and the greatest cartographic mystery you've never heard of. Our story begins like a detective novel in the 1990s, when American geophysicist Bruce Luyendyk noticed a curious pattern in seabed elevation data near New Zealand. The underwater plateaus and rises looked suspiciously like fragments of a single landmass, not random bumps on the ocean floor. He coined the name Zealandia, imagining a vast territory stretching thousands of kilometers, most of it submerged. At first, his peers were polite but skeptical. After all, 94% of this supposed continent hides beneath more than a kilometer of water. For 2 decades, New Zealand-based geologists Nick Mortimer, Rupert Sutherland, and a team at GNS Science collected rock cores, seismic readings, and fossil evidence, slowly stitching together a picture of a coherent continent. In 2017, they published a landmark paper declaring that Zealandia was real. News outlets erupted with headlines about a new continent discovered in plain sight. But in truth, the discovery was less a eureka moment than a decades-long accumulation of clues. How do you convince the scientific world that an almost invisible landmass deserves continent status? Geologists rely on 4 criteria. First, elevation. Zealandia's crust rises thousands of meters above the surrounding deep ocean basalt, forming plateaus and ridges, even if most sit below sea level. Second, geological diversity. Dredge samples reveal everything from ancient granites and metamorphics to younger sedimentary layers, exactly the rock variety found on other continents. Third, crustal thickness. At roughly 25 kilometers thick, Zealandia's crust is far beefier than the 6-kilometer crust beneath typical ocean basins. Fourth, a well-defined, discrete area. Covering nearly 5 million square kilometers, Zealandia is about the size of India and unmistakably separate from Australian crust. Check, 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 and check. Zealandia ticks every box. The only thing missing was a map showing the full extent of this drowned realm. That map proved devilishly hard to draw. Imagine trying to chart the Alps while they're buried under a dark ocean. For years, vast swaths of Zealandia showed up on bathymetric charts as blank patches labeled insufficient data. Everything changed when international research cruises crisscrossed the South Pacific between 2014 and 2022. Scientists lowered rock dredges into abyssal depths, drilled cores hundreds of meters into the seabed, and towed magnetometers behind research ships to detect subtle wiggles in Earth's magnetic field. By matching magnetic stripes, they traced massive volcanic provinces frozen in place when Zealandia ripped from the supercontinent Gondwana. Bit by bit, a continent emerged from darkness onto digital elevation models. In 2023, Mortimer's team released the first complete geologic map of Zealandia, north, south, and everywhere in between. For the first time, Earth's surface had a fully charted continent that almost no one will ever set foot on. A colossal zone of volcanism running down Zealandia's spine, spanning roughly 250,000 square kilometers. These submerged volcanoes, now silent and cloaked in sediment, testify to a fiery breakup 100 million years ago, when Zealandia stretched and thinned like pizza dough, rifting away from Gondwana. Alongside the volcanic scars lies the median batholith, a 4,000-kilometer-long granite backbone, aged between 100 and 250 million years. This hidden mountain chain links New Caledonia in the north to New Zealand's South Island, proving that the bits of land peaking above sea level are not isolated islands, but lonely summits of a colossal crustal block. Zealandia is both ancient and restless, born in fire, stretched by tectonics, and still rumbling at the edges. The continent's ecological story is just as astonishing. That sliver of Zealandia above water, New Zealand and a smattering of islands, hosts plants and animals found nowhere else on Earth. Kiwis, kakapo, tuataras, and forests of towering kauri. Fossil pollen recovered from offshore drill cores shows parts of Zealandia once rose above the waves, forming land bridges that let ancestors of modern species migrate before subsiding again. Zealandia's shallow shelves sculpt regional ocean currents, creating nutrient-rich upwellings that feed vibrant fisheries and hidden coral reefs. Understanding the shape and rise and fall history of this drowned continent helps biologists explain how unique ecosystems developed across the South Pacific. the implications go far beyond natural history trivia. For geologists, Zealandia is a living laboratory for studying how continents rift apart and sink, how volcanic activity accompanies breakup, and how plate boundaries evolve over tens of millions of years. By fitting Zealandia back against Australia and Antarctica, scientists refine models of Gondwana's fragmentation, improving everything from paleoclimate reconstructions to mineral exploration strategies. For environmental planners in New Zealand, a detailed crustal map highlights hidden fault lines, geothermal hotspots, and potential mineral or hydrocarbon resources, crucial data for managing hazards and economic development. Culturally, Zealandia has ignited public imagination. In the Maori language, it carries the poetic name Te Riu-a-Māui, the hills, valleys, and plains of Maui, honoring the legendary Polynesian navigator who, in Maori myth, fished up islands from the sea. By naming the continent in Maori as well as in scientific Latin, researchers weave indigenous heritage into 21st century discovery, reminding us that exploration is as much about meaning as measurement. So, what does the mapping of Zealandia ultimately teach us? First, the age of discovery on Earth is far from over. Even in an era of satellite imagery and deep-sea robots, our planet still harbors secrets large enough to reshape a world map. Second, science advances not only through spectacular eureka moments, but through patient accumulation of evidence across decades and disciplines. And third, the boundaries we draw between land and sea, between continent and island, are sometimes arbitrary lines waiting for fresh data to blur or erase them. Next time you glance at a globe, picture a ghost continent beneath the Southwest Pacific, its granite peaks cloaked by miles of water, its volcanic scars etched into the seafloor, its story only now emerging in full color. Zealandia reminds us that Earth is dynamic, enigmatic, and full of wonders still hidden in plain sight. Stay curious, explorers, because if an entire continent can evade us until the 21st century, imagine what other marvels await discovery just beyond the horizon. If you want more journeys into science's greatest mysteries, hit subscribe, tap the bell, and join me for the next deep dive into the unknown. Until then, keep questioning, keep exploring, and never stop looking beneath the surface.